guys, how are you? My name is Connor. You are watching ThrivingMinimalist.com, and this is a series about downsizing habits. Maybe a lot of habits that one would refer to as a bad habit. On these episodes, we're not going to refer to those things as bad habits because, in my opinion, there's really nothing that we're doing that is bad. It's all being done to take care of us in some way. And what I've noticed is that most of us have these habits, these patterns that we've developed to take care of ourselves that maybe no longer serve us. Maybe they never really served us, but they took care of a certain part of us for a certain amount of time, and it's there for a reason. And if we can kind of accept and love that our system is perfect and really is trying to take care of us to the best of its ability, I believe that we will navigate closer towards health, and that health will naturally kind of set us in motion to relieve ourselves from these things that maybe aren't truly serving our entire system any longer. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about my experience with some pretty hard drugs, and out of just sharing that experience, my hope is that there are bits and pieces in there that you can utilize in your own life. These videos are candid. For the most part, they're uncut, and I want to keep them that way. So if you're enjoying that kind of video format, let me know by clicking the like button or leaving a comment. It really helps me know what is working for you all. So my experience with hard drugs started pretty young. I did cocaine when I was like 14, had just turned 14, and I had just been always interested in drugs, and I don't know exactly why. I remember seeing some movies that were exciting, like Basketball Diaries, and I just wanted to be like Leonardo DiCaprio and write poetry and do hard drugs. And those things kind of got in there, but I think there's maybe culturally a fascination with hard drugs, and maybe people will try them out and dabble and do this and that, but not everyone becomes attached to them in the same way. And I really became attached to opiates specifically. So I did kind of hard drugs like ecstasy, cocaine, some methamphetamine throughout high school, and had here and there some Vicodin, some other kind of painkillers. It wasn't until I was maybe 22 that I started getting into Oxycontin. And it was pretty much right off the bat. I noticed that my whole body felt good. Not just my body, but my mind and my heart space felt good. I felt relief. And I've heard that from other people who've become really attached to drugs or alcohol, that they feel relief. For the first time, it feels like they can really be themselves, like they are whole, like they're full. And I experienced that. I really experienced that right away with Oxycontin and with other opioids. I continued to kind of dabble in them until maybe I was 24, 25, where I became more desirous. I really wanted to be doing them on a regular basis. And there was one particular drug. It's not technically an opiate. It's called Tramadol, Ultram. It's not technically an opiate, but it really did get me high in a similar way. And I want to make a video specifically about that drug in another series because I think it's so important. But suffice it to say that this drug I did pretty much every day for a number of years, with interspersed times where I would just get a bunch of Oxycontin, or maybe like a fentanyl patch, or maybe some other kind of form of oxy, just like a really concentrated opiate, and get super high for a weekend. And I would go through this pattern of getting really high for a weekend and then needing to just do nothing because my body was detoxing. I felt pretty horrific. And that pattern kept me in a certain place, I wasn't able to get as deep or get as connected with myself if I was always either getting high or taking care of myself after getting high. So I think that this particular pattern is something that we all have experienced in one way or another with our habits. It doesn't matter what the habit is. It doesn't matter if it's drugs or alcohol or shopping or spending money or eating. We tend to get into these patterns that just take us away from being present. And I think that that is a defense mechanism. It's a way that we take care of ourselves. It's a way to protect ourselves from getting closer to ourselves, which parts of us feel like is kind of scary. Because if we get close to ourselves, we might find some wounds that need some attention, and that might be a painful and challenging process. So in retrospect, I think that that was what I was doing. I was getting into these patterns where I didn't want to do oxy every day. There was no way I could. I had friends that could. I had friends that did heroin every day. I couldn't really do it like that, but I was addicted to the pattern. I mean, I loved getting high, but I also know that I wanted to get high and I wanted to get low and I wanted to just be stuck and stay in this place that I was getting more and more and more comfortable with. And throughout it all, man, right from the beginning, I knew, like, this is bad news, Conor. You can't do this forever. I don't want to do this forever. Kind of towards the end of my relationship with opiates, I started doing heroin. It was pretty short-lived, but I did, I got into heroin, and I could see, looking back, how it would have been such a simple transition from oxy to heroin, because heroin was just so much cheaper. It was easy to get. It was everywhere. And once you kind of cross those thresholds, it's like, oh, I'll never do cocaine. You do cocaine, then it's like, well, I'll never do, oxy or whatever it is for you. You start crossing those thresholds, it's like anything becomes possible. And I never shot up these drugs, but I did smoke them, and I was really into smoking them. And I can see how, if we keep continuing in these patterns without bringing consciousness, without bringing awareness into them, that we get carried away by these parts that want to take care of us in this specific way. This specific way being, for me, doing drugs. And it's weird to think like, well, that's not taking care of you. Doing drugs isn't good for you. That's not healthy. And that's true, but it's not the whole story. I believe that there are parts of us that genuinely hold the belief that doing drugs is healthier than maybe getting closer to these wounded parts of us, than being present, because the present is too painful. And I think there's other reasons that we get into these patterns, these habits. And they are based in protectorship. The cool thing is that with a little communication to ourselves, with a little integration of the brain, and what I mean by that is connecting the stories in our brain. Because like our brain is functioning as all these different perspectives. That's how the brain works. We have different ideas about how to live life. And you know this because there are times every single day where you're like, man, a part of me wants to do this, but a part of me wants to do this other thing. That's just your brain, like having two different ideas about how to live life. And for those of you who have struggled with becoming addicted to drugs or alcohol, you know that there's a part of your brain that wants to get high. And there's a part of your brain that's like, man, I do not want to get high. I want to live a different life. So to connect those stories, to connect those perspectives, that is integration. That is creating a whole mind, a whole body, a whole healthful system. Integration is essential for health. I didn't have that awareness at the time, but what I did have was this very strong part that was like, dude, if we don't do something now, ... And I didn't know what the other thing was. Like I had been saying that to myself for a while. Like, I've got to make a change. I've got to make a change. This is not good. But some things kind of happened all at once. I was married. I was with the same partner for 12 years. She left. She didn't want to be with me anymore. And it wasn't because of the drugs and alcohol, but it also couldn't have not been at least related. We weren't connecting in the same way. We didn't have the same love. We didn't have the same passion. We weren't sharing life. We weren't building each other up. And so she left. And that pivotal point, I noticed that my brain asked this question. It's like, what do you want to do here? What do you want to do? Do you want to change it all or just keep doing what you're doing. And I had this moment that was strong enough where I could say, I want to change it all. And so I really tried, like I really did change it all. And I know that you know what I'm talking about, because there are times where we feel this like this strength from somewhere, who knows where. It's inside of us, but it's like it just comes out of nowhere, and it's like, we can do anything. Let's do it. Let's do it all today. Let's go to the gym every day. Let's start eating 100% raw. Let's quit everything bad that we've ever done in our lives and just focus on health. And it works for a certain amount of time, right? And then a little bit slowly it starts petering out. And it just kind of goes away, because we can't live in that place forever. And I don't think that we want to, because that place is just one part. It's just one perspective. It's one part that wants to live life a certain way. And it's not integration. It's not the acceptance of your entire system. So I lived in that place for as long as I possibly could. I ate 100% raw. I quit smoking cigarettes. I quit doing drugs. I quit drinking alcohol. I was starting to run like every day. I was starting to exercise, starting to get back in my body. I was starting to really focus on the things I was consuming and like my physical body, what I could do with it, how I could gain health and happiness from that place. And to a certain extent, it worked. And then things started coming back in. My heart, I think, started coming back in and showing me that just working on my physical body, just working on not doing drugs and eating raw food was not going to be enough. That my heart, and when I say my heart, I mean, my emotional world, which comes from the mind, I believe, but, we have this space inside of our chest that we feel it aches, and it's real. So when I say my heart, that's what I'm talking about. My heart was reaching out to me and sending me these messages that like, hey dude, I need some attention too. Like, that's great. Your lungs are getting a lot healthier, but right now, like, I need to cry. I need to feel. I need to be held by you. I need to be noticed. I need my story to be told. I need you to pay attention to me. And that was the space that I noticed that this other part of me that wanted to do drugs would come in and be like, yo, I don't have time for that. Or like, that's too much. That's too intense. We've got to take care of you in this other way. That space was challenging for me. And whatever your habit is that you're trying to alleviate, that you're trying to find relief for, I believe that space is what keeps us attached to those habits. It keeps us from making that transition easy and without challenge. Is that there's something in here that feels practically overwhelming to other parts of us. And it takes time to really develop a connection that does feel like we got this. We can connect with those wounds, with that heart space. Whatever it feels like for you, sadness, anxiety, stress, depression, insomnia, all these things are coming from this heart space that I'm talking about. They're messages to us to pay attention and to give them love, to give ourselves love. But it's specific, it's targeted. I need it. Pay attention to me. I think that is the space that we must develop in order to truly change a habit. And if we can develop that connection, if we can listen to the messages of the heart, and we can hold compassion, true compassion for ourselves. And that's it. That's all I'm talking about. I'm just talking about loving yourself, but like for real. Then we don't have to force change. We don't have to force ourselves to quit anything. We will naturally we will be naturally directed into a path of health. So for me, you guys, like the exercise, more sleep, cleaning up my diet. For me, that meant raw foods, high fruit diet. Doesn't have to mean the same thing for you. Getting into movement. All those things were incredibly helpful for me to ease my connection and break the pattern initially with hard drugs, super hard drugs. But for long-term, sustainable health, connection, being able to really change that habit and change that pattern, because oftentimes, we might remove the drugs, but we put in gambling, or we remove the drugs and we put in whatever it is. We just replace this stuff. To really change that, it was about connecting here. Really sitting down and listening to what my heart needed from me. And I know what our hearts need from us. It's to be paid attention to. It's to get love from ourselves. And that can start right now, right here, just by breathing. That's it. You can close your eyes. You can put your hands on your heart. You can breathe in, you can breathe out. You can let yourself know that you're here for you. You're connected. You're your best friend. You're your best lover. You are your mother. You are your father. You are everything that you need. And truly creating that for yourself might be a lifelong journey, as it is for me. That's how I see it. But you can take those steps today. And any steps that you take, any time you set aside for you, is showing yourself self-love. Any amount of time, any energy you put into you is a practice of self-love. And that is what we need in order to change. So if you want to ditch your habits, find more self-love. I mean, that's the end. That's going to be the moral of the story to all these videos. So if you don't want to watch them, you just want to know what the moral of the story is, that's it. Self-love. Self-love. So, this is not the point of these videos, but I do want to let you know that I work in this field. This is how I make my money, is by connecting with people who are struggling, wanting to make change in their life. I've developed a program. It's a 30-day email program. It's got emails, it's got videos, it's got meditations. I think that it can really help you learn about how to develop self-love for yourself. There's a lot of different ways to do it. This is just one way that I think can get you started. So I highly recommend it. I'm gonna put a link right here for a discount code for y'all. And if you're interested, you can check that out at thrivingminimalist.com. Use the discount code and you will get a discount. So much love to you. If you like the video, again, it would be a huge benefit to me to know that if you click the like button. So take care of yourselves. We'll check in soon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.